Amen. Guys, if you will, go ahead and pull out your worship guide. If you don't know what that is, it's the yellow thing that looks like a ticket. It's the summer concert series on there, but outlines inside of it. It is good to be back on this stage. As Pastor Stephen mentioned, I had a little time off. Thank you guys for letting me have that. The babies are doing very, very good. I have two little boys, Zachary and Jeremiah. They are 3 pounds, 5 ounces each. They're identical twins, and they are precious. Yeah, thank you. They already have my forehead wrinkles, which is really sad, but that's okay. And so I want to thank you guys. Thank you for letting me take some time off to just be with them, and I've missed you, and it's so good to be back. Let's go ahead and dive into the Word. We are going to be looking at some of the Song of Solomon. If you know nothing about that, it is an incredible book of the Old Testament. It is a love poem, a love song. People were not allowed to read it. This is true. In Jewish culture, you were not allowed to read this until you were 30 years old, because for their day, this was an incredibly scandalous and very descriptive book. I'll say it that way, a very descriptive book about what it means to be in a relationship between a husband and a wife. So I would love for all of you guys to take some time to read it, but those of you who are parents, this is not what you read to your kids before they go to bed at night. This isn't that, because there's time when they're saying, enjoying the choice fruits and grabbing on the palm branches and smelling gardens, and, it kind of means things other than what it was. Anyway, so it's an incredible book, but, make sure that you are reading it to the right audience. And it has a lot to say about our relationships one with the other, and it has a lot to say about our relationships with God, because if you are a part of the church, if you are a follower of Jesus, the way God loves you are His bride, and He longs for you, and He loves you, and He's devoted to you as a husband should be to his bride. And so we're going to learn from it today. Song of Solomon, chapter 5, starting with verse 3. And this is the woman speaking first. There's a woman in this named Shulamite, and then Solomon himself, and they kind of go back and forth speaking to each other. So she says, I slept, but my heart was awake. Listen, my beloved is knocking. And now Solomon begins speaking. He says, open to me, my sister, my darling, my dove, my flawless one. My head is drenched with dew, my hair with the dampness of the night. And then she responds back and she says, I've taken off my robe. Must I put it on again? I've washed my feet. Must I soil them again? And so, again, give you some background as to how I kind of introduced it. It seems like, well, that's a weird verse. In this song, it is really Solomon's description of what a marriage should look like. Solomon, if you don't know much about him, he was king of Israel, one of the greatest kings of Israel, if not the greatest king of all time in all human history. He had 300 wives and 700 concubines, so he was a busy man in every sense of the word, and we'll leave it at that. One is more than enough. All my brothers say amen. Amen. One is more than enough. He had 1,000 women in his life. And so we don't know whether this song is about a real relationship or just what he would imagine a good marriage should look like that he never had. But in this part of the song, this couple has met, they've wooed, they've been married, they've consummated the marriage. Now they're married and they're together. And we don't know all the circumstances of what's going on here, but apparently Solomon, the man in this story, he's out late at night. Now it could have been because of a kingly duty. It could have been he had some responsibility, but he's gone late out at night. And we look at this verse, and this woman in this story, she's saying, I slept, but my heart was awake. And what she's meaning is, I was laying down in the bed, but I was worried for him, and I was missing him, and I was longing for him. So even though I was sleeping, my heart was still awake. And then all of a sudden, Solomon shows up and starts knocking on the door. Now, if this was a story about him and a true person, it might not have been, a military need or an economic need that had him out late at night. It might have been because he had another obligation to another wife. And we don't know. I mean, so imagine being a woman in that situation. Like, where is my husband? I don't know where he is. I don't know what he's doing. And if this was true, then every wife kind of had a separate dwelling place. And so he's knocking at her dwelling place. Apparently he lost his key in the middle of the night or early morning, and he wants to come in. And if you look at what he says to her, he wants to come in for a particular reason, a manly reason, a marriage reason. And he wants to have some time with her. And you can tell that by the way that he asked her to open the door. He says, open to me. And then I know it starts off a little strange. My sister. Now, in Jewish culture, this is not West Virginia. Nothing funky going on there. Sorry. If you're from West Virginia, we love you. Anyway, but no, nothing weird going on there. That was a term of endearment. and love. And so brothers and sisters, yeah. So it starts with my sister. Then he goes, my darling. You know what I'm saying? I think of alfalfa every time I hear that. Oh, my darling Clementine. Anyway, so my darling, start buttering her up. Then he says, my dove. You know what I'm saying? Like a perfect, you are perfect dove. And then he just drops the big bomb. My flawless one. You know, so he's buttering her up, and he's probably not doing it because he wants to play checkers with her, okay? Like, he has something on his mind. He wants to be with his wife. He wants to be one with her, and he's trying to get in relationship with her. Now, love Shulamite. Love Shulamite because she really is, she's a woman. She's a woman. And what Shulamite does is what I believe most of the women in this room, what you probably would do if your husband was out till 2 o'clock in the morning doing God knows what. She turns him down cold, y'all. Like, look at what she does here. He says that he's drenched with dew, and all that kind of stuff. And then she's like, drenched with dew? I've taken off my robe. I'm not putting it back on. She's like, I'm here laying, this flawless one, I'm here laying naked in bed, but I'm not getting up. So just think about that, Solomon. Next time you're out in the middle of the night, I've taken off my robe and not putting it back on. She says, I've washed my feet. And in those times, of course, they didn't have elevated houses. And even the king, there'd be dust and dirt on the floors. And a lot of people, they had dirt floors. She said, I've washed my feet. I'm not getting up to unlock the door for you, you no good, whatever, who's lost his key out in the middle of the night. I'm not doing it. I'm not coming to you. You can just shake out that damn hair by yourself. That's kind of what she's saying. So she's letting him know she's not happy that he is gone. She's kind of punishing him for being and worrying her. There's tension in their relationship. They're married now. The honeymoon is over, baby. And there's some tension in their relationship. Now, whether you're married or whether you're not, when you get close to people, tension is going to happen. Will somebody say amen today? Let's be real. Tension happens. Friends, there's tension between friends because sometimes your friends are going to agree with you and sometimes they're just going to be wrong because they disagree with you. You're not going to always see eye to eye. Family, my goodness. Family, we can love each other so passionately and we can be ready to rip each other's heads off over the craziest things when we're in family. Your kids, man, they're so precious and they're so beautiful, but sometimes if you could trade in for another model, you would. Because they hurt you and you hurt them. There's tension in every relationship. I've been very, very blessed with a wonderful wife. Jessica is incredible. And we don't fight much, but we do fight some. I don't know what y'all's thing is. One of our big things is that we tend to have tension anytime we have to be somewhere at a particular time. We seem to have tension because we will get our kids ready. We'll get their shoes on. Everything's ready to go. We got 20 minutes to get there. We only need 10. Then all of a sudden, everybody has to use the bathroom. All of a sudden, we realize we forgot to do something. All of a sudden, and it's like, we feel this tension that so many times, like when we try to go to Busch Gardens, I don't even want to go. Because it's so tense trying to get there, you can miss it. We all have things like that make it hard to be in close relationship with each other. But we know this. Relationships are the most valuable, beautiful, and wonderful thing that God gives us. If you have the blessing of being in a close walk with somebody, whether it is a friend, a family member, a marriage, a child-parent relationship, my gosh, we should be thanking Jesus that we have the opportunity to walk closely with others, knowing that sometimes it's going to be easy and sometimes it's going to be very, very hard. And we see this in this marriage relationship. So Solomon's trying to go in. He wants to make love to his wife, and she's having the biblical version of a headache. Yeah, that's how it is. That's what she's doing. No, I got a headache tonight. I don't want to come. That's what Shulamite is doing here to King Solomon. And we're going to talk a little bit about conflict. I really think, guys, when you get down to it, there are two reasons why people have conflict with one another when they're in a relationship. If you want to write them down, the first one, unmet expectations. And again, that is not just a marriage thing, that's universal. You expect your friend to do this and they stab you in the back. You expect God, oh my goodness. There have been times where I'll be real, I've been so angry at God because I just knew exactly what you need to do, God, and you just don't do it. And you wonder why. Why would you do that? You say you love me and you say that you're for me and you have great plans to prosper me, but I know my plan. You feel this. People feel that way towards God all the time. And of course, spouses, unmet expectations. I get the blessing of doing lots and lots and lots of marriage counseling. And it's so cute and wonderful and horrifying at the same time to see that truly young couple come in that like everything the other does is cute. You know, burps smell sweet and farts are cute. You know what I mean? Like, you know, there's that rose-colored thing and, you know, you start talking about, you know, the way they're going to live. You know, it doesn't matter. Nothing matters. When you get married, stuff matters. When I was dating Jessica, my underwear was on the floor because that way I knew where it was. And when I ran out, I washed it. You know what I'm saying? But now I'm married. She saw it though, y'all. Like, she wanted to marry me anyway. And now that doesn't fly. When I was single, my dishes would pile up in the sink. And then when the sink was full, I would wash them. And every once in a while, if I was particularly hungry, I'd just get me a little, no, I didn't do that. But, you know, like, just a little morsel, a little cake left over. Anyway, you know, like, when I was single, I'd wash them. Now, like, we need to know each other's expectations. Whenever someone doesn't fulfill your expectations, it's natural and very easy for there to be tension. And so we have to really, really guard and make sure we're aware of people's expectations of us and also that they're aware of our expectations of them. Number 2, I really think this is the root one, even of that one, is selfishness. Somebody is being self-centered and being selfish. And so when you have a sense of self-centeredness and whenever you're in a relationship to get something from someone, you're going to be disappointed sometimes. Because that's not what relationships are for. And maybe some of you, this will be your first time hearing this. If that's the case, then cool. And but if not, that's okay too. Like, as a follower of Jesus Christ, every relationship that you have now outside of your relationship with God, it is not about you anymore. It is not about you getting anything from anyone because you've gotten everything from Him. Let me say that to you again because that's good. You can write it down. It's not about you getting anything from anyone because you've gotten everything from Him. You see, when you're a follower of Jesus, who is the person who's supposed to meet your need for peace? God. Who's supposed to be the person that brings joy to your life? God. Who's supposed to be the one that gives you contentedness? God. Who's supposed to be the one that provides for you? God. And I can go on a long list. Like, as a child of God, we understand that every good gift is supposed to come from Him. So if I'm looking at Jessica to give me peace or happiness or contentment or any of those things, she's going to disappoint me. I'm called to be a reflection of Jesus to her. And if I do that long enough and well enough, I'm going to get some back. And even if I don't, I get full. That's one of the guys, I can't help but be real with you today. It's been a while. Can I unload on you just a little bit? Like a little, like, I'm so thankful for Jesus. Here's one reason why I'm so thankful for Jesus. He doesn't need anything from me. Nothing. Like, you think about that for a second. Like, I can have a relationship with a being who doesn't need anything from me. He doesn't need my approval. He doesn't need, whatever. He chooses to give to me, and He wants to love me. And I can vomit all the stuff of my life on Him, and it does not push Him away one bit. I do that to you guys, and you won't want to be my friends anymore. I mean, just being real. We are called to receive from Him and then pour out on others. And so if you're married, don't talk about what you're not getting in your marriage because you're not supposed to be getting, you're supposed to be giving. And if you give knowing Jesus and she gives knowing Jesus, it's going to be good. If you're a parent, don't come and you can, but like just understand like you're being kind of stupid. Like they're not doing for you. It's not about them doing anything for you. It's about you being Jesus for them and to them. And then hopefully they'll follow your example and, make their beds and do their chores. I mean, you hope that in response to you being Christ, you will show them a way that they are to go. But if you're a follower of Christ, relationships aren't about you getting something. They're about you having the blessing of giving to others a piece of what Jesus has given to you. And that's why it's so important to be connected to Him. Whenever there's tension in relationships, and guys, I have it. So it's easy to preach it. It's hard to live it. A lot of times it comes back to self-centeredness and selfishness. In my family, again, I'll talk about myself and got permission from Jessica to talk a little bit about us. One of the other sources of great tension that we have in our household totally is rooted in my self-centeredness sometimes. And all I can say as an excuse is, I'm a man. And, we just get, some of the guys are laughing because, men first, I've noticed things about men. When we get home from work, if we're honest with you, our sisters, if we're honest with you, what we really want to do is just get home, lay on the couch, and somehow just morph into it. You know what I'm saying? Like, just like become like a slug and just totally morph into it. Right? When guys get home, home is a place of like release and relaxation, and you want to do nothing for a little while. When women get home, it's like you get a shot of adrenaline crack. I don't know what it is, but you're like ready to clean things and care for children and like garden and it's like all of a sudden, like, what kind of day do you have? Terrible. And Jessica's like, she's ready to do something. I'm like, I want to be like, let me be nothing. And there's a source of tension there. Anybody honest enough to say that happens in your house too sometimes? Give them okay. And if you're not raising your hand, you're liars too. Anyway, but self-centeredness. Whenever we focus on self, we're going to have issues and be disappointed. I don't know your thing, but I do know that if we're going to have relationships that work, we have to learn to overcome these tendencies. And I want to talk a little bit about how we do this, because it's here again in God's Word, and that's why I love it so much. In the Song of Solomon, we're going to continue the story a little bit. So here's what continues on. It's Song of Solomon 5:4. This is the Shulamite speaking again. And she says, my beloved... and you got to admire the man's persistence. My beloved, he thrust his hand through the latch opening. So it's kind of an older door, and he can kind of get some fingers. He's trying to open it himself, He thrust his hand through the latch opening, and my heart began to pound for him. So I arose to open for my beloved. My hands dripped with myrrh, my fingers with flowing myrrh on the handles of the bolt. And I opened for my beloved, but my beloved had left. He was gone. My heart sank at his departure. I looked for him, but I did not find him. I called to him, but he did not answer. I love this book, and to be honest with you guys, when I was in seminary, I actually wrote my master's thesis on the Song of Solomon because I just believe that this book has so much wisdom for marriages and also has so much wisdom for our walk with God as His bride. So I've always loved this book. The very first thing that Jessica ever got me, my wife, it was she got me a commentary on the Song of Solomon. What a romantic gift. I have it forever. I will cherish it forever because she just knew how much I loved it. And when I was writing my master's thesis on this book, I never understood this verse. This whole thing. My beloved thrust his hand through the latch opening, and my heart began to pound for him. Because as I think about it, I was like, what was up with this dude's hand? You know what I'm saying? Like, was it like the veins? Were his nails just that good looking? Like, as a single guy, because I was thinking, like, what am I missing, man? I need to do something. Because apparently, like, this was a secret to, like, woohoo, she was, like, not in the mood. Now his hand's there, and she is. And so I was like, what? So I went to some of my professors, the theologians, like, what's going on with this? What's going on with this? Nobody really knew. And then I went and asked Jessica, what do you think about this verse? And some of my other female friends, and she's like, Jason, you're making this way too complicated. She's a woman, and women can just change their mind. And that's what she said. I was like, it's her prerogative, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, she wasn't going to get up. She wasn't going to put back on her robe. She wasn't going to get her feet dirty. But I think she saw his persistence, and all of a sudden she's like, man, I love my husband. I want to be there for him. And not only did she want to be there for him, she's like, well, since he just, wants some of this. Anyway, I'm going to make sure that I'm ready. So, kind of here underneath, in between the lines, you see, like, she goes and she gets herself freshened up. She goes and gets some myrrh, which is like a perfume, and she starts, her hand. Ladies, we love you, but in the middle of bed, your hands do not drip myrrh. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I've been married long enough to know that, like, Jessica's breath isn't always candy canes and, like, roses. Mine too. So if your hands are dripping with myrrh, you went to the bathroom and did something. So she's getting herself all ready and fresh and clean, and then, she's getting all right, and she's like, I woke up like this, like, I can imagine her going like this. This is how I am all the time. And she goes and, like, opens the door. He's gone. It's like wah-wah, to this part of the story. He's gone. He left. He gave up. And the next part of the story, which I didn't have because I just couldn't contain it, but you should read it. The next part of the story is really, really sad because she starts calling for him, and then she actually goes out into the town. They lived in Jerusalem, and she starts calling for him, and she's wandering through the town trying to find him. And at this time of night, which was very late, the only women that were wandering around the city at this time of night were women of the night, a.k.a. prostitutes. And so when she is doing that, some guards discover her, and we don't know exactly what they do to her, but they rough her up. They abuse her because they think that she's a prostitute. Now, being married to the king, that probably was their last day on duty. They probably had their heads decorating a wall somewhere after that. But the reason why I share that part of the story with you is because he gave up so quick. What he thought would be a little hurt multiplied to a big hurt. And in relationships, it's so important that we're intentional because you think it's just a little word, or you think it's just a little action, or you think it's just a little whatever. And in relationships with people we love, those things blow up. And little things cause big hurts. Will somebody say amen to that? And so I want to encourage you and I want to beg you, watch the little things. As a matter of fact, turn to your neighbor and say, watch the little things. Watch the little thing. Because the little things in relationships, they blow up into big things. I sit down with couples all the time who are about to call it quits. Not because of infidelity, not because of these major sins, but because little comment after little comment, little mistrust after little mistrust, little lie after little lie, and the little things become big things. So let's learn how to protect ourselves just a little bit in the time we have left. To resolve conflict, number one, I'm going to act and not react. I'm going to act and not react. And what I mean by that is I'm going to be proactive into speaking and pursuing life and encouragement and blessing and love over the relationships that matter to me. I'm going to do it with my Father God. I'm going to do it with my spouse if I'm married. I'm going to do it with my friends. I'm going to do it with my kids. I'm not going to wait for them to do something to me. I'm going to bring blessing and love and mercy to them. I'm going to act and not react. Because the problem with reacting, it's a lot easier to see the things that people do wrong than to see the things that people do right. Now, we don't ever see what we do wrong because we got it together. And all the rest of the world is just crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't see our flaws, but it's real easy to see everybody else's. And we need to make sure in relationships that we speak life over those things. I didn't include this verse, but, you know, in one of the Proverbs that King Solomon wrote, it says, better for a man to sleep on his roof than in a bed with a woman that is a nag. It's like someone who cuts and criticizes every little thing. That could go both ways because, guys, we nag too, amen? We do. But we're going to make sure that we act and not react. This is how Paul talked about it. He's better than me. He says, repay no evil for evil. Have regard for good things in the sight of all men. If it is possible, as much as it depends on you, live peaceably with all men. Do not be overcome by evil, but do what? Overcome evil with good. What would it look like, Ignite Church, if every one of us in this room resolved ourselves that we will pray for and over the people that we love? That we will act first and we will pray blessings over their lives. We will pray for their lives. We will speak good things over their lives. I wonder what it would do to our relationships if we did that to our kids. If we did it to our spouses, if we did it to our friends. And in first service, someone says, I never even heard about that. How sad is it that men and women of faith, that we think it's weird for us to pray over our friends? If you have friends, you should be praying. Yeah, if you have somebody and you say, and you contact them, call them, have them over, say, I want to pray over you, and they say, no, you shouldn't be a friend with that person. That should be a natural part of our heartbeat, is that we love people that are close to us, and we're going to pray God's blessings over them. And for those of you that are married, I've said this a million times. I'll keep saying it because some of you have never heard me say it because it's the first time at Ignite. The best thing you can do for your marriage is to get down on your knees once a day and pray over your spouse. People say, what do I pray for? You pray with thanksgiving for all the good things that you see in their life, and you pray with expectation for all the things that you know they can be, even if they're not those things yet. Because my brothers, you might not be the spiritual leader you're called to be yet, but you can be. And if you follow Jesus, you will be. And my sisters, you might not always be the supportive, humble woman of faith that Christ calls you to be, but you can be. And if you pursue Jesus, you will be. And I'm telling you, your kids, they might not be the leaders of the next generation yet, but you pray that over their life, and they can be and will be by the power of Jesus. You pray that stuff. You pray that stuff over your people that are close to you. You pray those things over your boss and see what they're either going to run, they're going to fire you, or you're going to get promoted. I don't know what's going to happen. You know, it could be, don't blame me, it could be any of the three. But it changes relationships when you start praying for, acting first. You're going to be the bridge to bring Christ into every relationship in your life. He says, do not be overcome by evil. You overcome evil with good. And it's hard to fight with somebody that's always speaking blessings over your life. It's just hard. It's just hard to be mad at somebody who you know loves you and is praying God's best over you. So we will act and not react. We will not criticize, in other words. Number 2, guys, I will focus on the good and not the bad. To resolve conflict, I'm going to focus on the good. Now, that doesn't mean you let people get away with everything. I'm not saying that. There are times when I need to be called out because there are times I am capital D dumb. You know, and I'm so thankful that in a loving way, my wife is able to help me see the things that I don't see sometimes. But I think as a general rule, those of us that are in a marriage, those of us that are parents, those of us that have friends that we truly care about or other relationships that are important, we need to make sure that we choose to see what is good and lovely. Because if you're with somebody and you can't see any of those things, why are you with them? You know, like if you can't, there must be good. There must be something that drew you to them. There must be something that is worthwhile in their life that can be uplifted. Focus on those things. And so I say to you that are in a marriage relationship, before you get home at night, you write down 5 or 6 or 10 things that you love about your love. That you love about them. Because they are generous and they are considerate and they have helped raise your family. They've done all these things for your life that are good things. You speak those things out and you focus on those things. And then when you get home and something isn't right, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal anymore. Your friends, yes, your friends sometimes do crazy things. And yes, they don't always see things the way you do. But there's a reason that they're close to you. And you remember those things and you remind yourself of those things. And consider the good instead of the bad. Again, Paul speaking so much more beautifully than I ever could. He says it this way. He says, finally, my brothers and sisters, whatever things are true, whatever things are noble, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are of good report, if there's any virtue, if there's anything praiseworthy, I want you to meditate on those things. Guys, I want you, if you will, in just your outline, just underline and then kind of circle or highlight meditate. Because I think there's a lot of confusion as to what that means. For many of us, when we think of meditation, we kind of think of Eastern religion. We kind of think of like doing yoga or somebody like sitting cross-legged, floating in the air. Like we kind of think of stuff like that. I do. I'm a nerd. But when the Bible talks about meditating, it's not talking about emptying your mind, because that's kind of Eastern meditation. You empty your mind, think of nothing. I still haven't mastered that. How can I think? But in biblical circles, it's you choose what you think of. You focus your thoughts. You focus your thoughts. And even the worst sinner, they have parts of their life that are beautiful because they're made by a beautiful God. And you choose to think of and focus of and pray over those things. You choose the good. Because guess what? We all have good and we all have bad. The reality is this in every relationship, whether a friendship relationship or a marriage relationship, no one's going to be able to meet all of our needs. No one is going to be able to meet all of our needs. If you have somebody that you say, they do an 80% good job, you are a very, very blessed person. And I mean that. Like if they, 80% of the time, they can get it right. 80% of the time, they're there for you. 80% of the time, they seem to know what to say or do. That's a great relationship. And I see so many couples that they give up the 80 to be with somebody that gives them the 20 that think they're missing. And I'm not a mathematician, but 80 is always better than 20. Can we say amen to that? And so there's no such thing as a perfect person. There's no such thing as a perfect relationship. We must choose to focus on the good rather than the bad. When I was growing up, I went to a Baptist seminary. I grew up Southern Baptist. And for Southern Baptist, Billy Graham was like, he was the man. Billy Graham was the man, brought millions of people into the kingdom of heaven, did these huge crusades. And one time I remember reading an article written about his wife, who was an incredible woman of faith in her own right. And this interviewer was kind of trying to get her to say, I guess, something maybe a little bad about Billy. But the line of questioning was, it's great that he's doing all these good things, but because he's doing all these good things, he's gone a lot. For 20 years, he was gone 7 months out of the year, every year. Think about that. So for 20 years, he would be home 5 months and gone 7 months. And a lot of times he couldn't take his wife and his kids. The place that he went, they just couldn't come to do that. And so we're kind of going on that line of questioning. He was like, do you resent the fact that he was gone so much? And she said, I could choose to resent that. But instead, and I want to quote her on this because what she said was so good. She says, but instead of resenting, I realized this truth. 5 months with my Billy are better than 12 months with anyone else. That's so sweet. Love that. She says, I could choose to resent the fact that he's gone a lot. But instead, I choose to understand the truth that 5 months with him, my love, are better than 12 months with anyone else. We choose and can find what we look for. Before I leave this point, I'll quote my mama, because I like to quote my mama, because she was a woman of faith, a good Southern woman. My mom would say this point, guys, and some of you have heard me say this before. And she says, you always find what you look for. Vultures find dead meat, and hummingbirds find nectar. You always find what you look for. And so we have a choice today, Ignite. Are we going to be a hunched over black vulture chewing on a dead carcass? Because there's always bitter things you can chew on and dead things you can chew on. Or are we going to be like beautiful hummingbirds that are looking for the sweet things, even though sometimes they're hard to find? Anyway, I'll focus on the good and not the bad. Last point, guys. I will talk and not walk. I will talk and not walk. In other words, when someone is driving me crazy, whether it's God driving me crazy, whether it's my spouse driving me crazy, whether it's my kids driving me crazy, whether it's one of you who I love so much, but sometimes, whether a friend driving me crazy, we're going to talk it out and we're not just going to leave. And if you're my generation or younger, I want to speak especially to you guys. We are a generation that has somehow learned the lie of that if it's hard, we should leave. For some reason, our generation, we've learned that things are supposed to be easy if they're God's will. And I want you to know, my brothers and sisters, that is completely contrary to the gospel. It was not easy to hang on a cross. It was not easy to rise from the dead. If you were a disciple, it was not easy to follow Jesus. You go read the book of Acts. Not one single one of the apostles died in their beds a peaceful death. They all were murdered. It wasn't easy, but it was good. And it was right. And so, school is hard, so I'll quit. Relationships are hard, so I'll run. This job is hard, so I'll go find another job. We got to get over that, my brothers and my sisters. Because the best things in life are often very, very hard, but also very, very good. So we're going to commit, we're going to talk, and we're not going to walk. Ephesians says it this way. It says, in your anger, do not sin. Do not let the sun go down while you're angry. And do not give the devil a foothold. Every time I read this, there's some of you that probably literally hold to this. You will not go to bed. And if there's tension, if there's anger, those of you that are married, I have to be honest with you. Me and Jessica, we try to hold by that, but sometimes we just get sleepy. And we still go to bed. If you're arguing about something and your wife or husband starts sounding like Charlie Brown's mama, you're probably you're going out. You know what I'm saying? But there have been a few times. There have been a few times, not many, but a few times where Jessica and I have had an argument that we just could not resolve in a day. And it's so weird being in bed next to somebody when you're mad at them. It's so weird because it's like there's like this invisible wall where it's like you're sleeping on yourself, like this. And if like your leg, if you touch me, it's like, don't touch my toe. If you want your toe touched, touch your own toe. It's like, you're mad at one another. What Paul, I think, is saying here more so than sleeping habits is saying, you need to make sure that you understand, you don't ignore it, but you don't flee from it either. You resolve it, because if you love Jesus and the person that you're in disagreement with loves Jesus, there somewhere, because of your common love of Christ, there is common ground. Somewhere there is peace. Somewhere there is resolution. So you don't give up. You keep searching for it. And if you keep searching for it, you will find it. I love the fact, in this little piece of Song of Solomon that we read, I love the fact Solomon did not burst into her room. He could have kicked the door down. He could have forced himself into the situation. I love the fact that he didn't force himself, but I hate the fact that he ran away. I hate the fact that he ran away. Because if he'd just been willing, man, he should have slept outside her door if that's what it took. You sleep, you know what I'm saying? For your wife, for your love, for your friend, for your God. Those of you who are having tension with God, you get down on your knees and you say, God, I'm not getting up off my knees until it's right between me and you. You kind of have one of those wrestling matches with God. And he's going to meet you there. He's going to meet you there. And you're going to wrestle it out and he's going to win. Because that's what he always does. But even when he wins, he'll bless you. That's what happened to Jacob anyway. I'm not going to let go till you bless me. And God knocked his ankle out of joint and said, your name is Israel now, because you've wrestled with God and you won. So please do not give up and walk away, because if you walk away, this is what you miss. Last verse for today, guys, and then we're going to get some snow cones. This is going to be great. It's going to be great for me anyway. I don't know about y'all. Song of Solomon 6:11 says, I went down to the grove. This is one of the final verses of the song. I went down to the grove of the nut trees to look at the new growth in the valley, to see if the vines had budded or the pomegranates were in bloom. And again, I know it's poetry. She's not talking about a little garden. She's saying, after walking through life with this person, through the good and the bad and the ugly, we've grown in ways that we never would if we didn't fight. When you go through a fight, when you go through tension, when you go through a valley, I promise there's always an end to the valley. There's always a mountain on the other side, and you are going to grow in the valley in ways you never could if you didn't go through it. And so if you're in one right now, understand that when you come on the other side, there is going to be new life.